Welcome to Biz Help for You with host Candy Messer. Entrepreneurs like to focus on the big picture, like profitability, success, and a smooth running organization. But there always seems to be those little things like taxes, employee compensation, laws, regulations, and more. Now you can get the answers you need in one place. Join us today as we break it all down for you. Now, here's your host, Candy Messer.
Hello and welcome to Biz Help for You with Candy Messer. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you found the information on last week's show, Business Exit Strategy, informative. If you are unable to join us and would like to listen to the show, links can be found on our YouTube and Facebook pages, as well as multiple favorite podcast platforms. If you'd like to receive notifications on when our episodes have been uploaded, please like and subscribe. If there are topics you find beneficial or questions you have, please feel free to reach out to me at media@abandp.com. Now let's learn a little bit about our guest today. As a life coach, Erica Bigelow helps her clients develop a positive mindset, a renewed outlook for themselves and their future. Her podcast sends the message that everyone is made beautifully inside and out. She wants her listeners to shine and be an example to others as they live fully, completely, with no barriers, no burdens, and no regrets. So Erica, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I know this is going to be a fun topic too. It's not necessarily just business, which sometimes I do just business, but because business and personal commingle, right? I thought this would also be a great topic to discuss. But before we get into the questions that I have for you, I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you even become a life coach?
So for me, I'm a very spiritual person, and growing up, I always been in positions, even as a little kid, where I felt like I was in a situation or a place where I would give people advice, or more like a leadership role to kind of help people guide through life, kind of. And even in my career life in corporate world, I've always had a management or a leadership role where, again, I would be giving advice. But in the corporate world, we have barriers, and, certain things can't be talked about at work or because there's that logistic part of it.
Cause issues.
Yeah. Sometimes you could be digging up some information that might cause some problems. So I always felt like I was blocked, I was supposed to be doing extra, but I was never able to because of where I was in my position. So about 3 years ago, I was like, my sister actually brought it to me and was like, you would be really good as a life coach. And at that point, I didn't really have any idea of what it was. I started doing the coursework, did everything, started taking on clients pro bono to just see if that was something for me. And I fell in love, and I was like, oh, this is my purpose. This is what I was being prepared for all, my whole entire life, my journey. And looking back now, I still realize little situations that have come up, like, oh, this was preparation for where you are now.
Okay. So obviously that has turned into this topic of what we're going to, discuss today that you're helping other people with, which is self-love. So I would love for you to just give your definition of what self-love is.
So self-love to me is really loving yourself like you would love someone else, if not deeper. So having that compassion, that patience, that trustworthiness, knowing that you're safe, and feeling just being kind to yourself, and having that availability to be emotional and work through those emotions, and not just putting yourself to the side for everyone else, and actually taking that time to self-care and nurture yourself.
But some people might think that that is a selfish thing because they're taking time for themselves and they're not giving, to their family or to other responsibilities they have. So what do you say to someone who feels that that's the case?
I love that, Candy, because every client's like, this is the selfish act. And I'm like, okay, great. So when I had my son, he's 6 now, and we were on the plane. He had to be like maybe 6 months old, right? And the stewardess is like, ma'am, if we go down, I need you to put your mask on first. And I was like, wait, what? No, like my kid. I need to make sure my kid's going to be okay, and then I'll be okay. But she goes, now, if you pass out, then who's going to be responsible?
Right.
And yes, that's a simple thing, but that whole plane ride, which was about 6 hours long, I thought to myself, like, wow, what type of mom am I if I only have 10% to give him?
Mm-hmm.
What type of wife will I be if I only have 5% to give my husband? What type of employee will I be if I have nothing? So when you think to yourself, if you give to yourself first, that's selfish. But if you don't have anything to give out, that's more selfish than actually having something to give back and not giving
Mm-hmm.
it. Does that
Right.
make sense? Just like
I've
using,
heard the, I would
go
say
ahead.
I've heard the definition of you can't give from an empty cup.
Which is, I was going to use the cell phone because everybody is glued to their cell phones. You make sure
Right.
your cell phone is charging at night every night, so it's 100% in the morning. Why would
Mm-hmm.
you not do the same for yourself? Recharge yourself so that you have 100% to give out.
Right. But there's so many tasks on that to-do list, right? You know, and I've got to cook and clean and take the kids, and, you know, they've got soccer, and I've got to do my job, and I've got, you know, so how do I fit that in?
Are you asking me, or are you?
I'm just saying that's what somebody,
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
that's
would be saying.
always,
Mhm.
it is. And you know what? The thing is, just like you have that 5 minutes to cook that meal or do something, you can take that 5 minutes. For me, my routine is as soon as the kids are off to school, I'll go do a walk for myself, or I'll do a run, and then I give myself a meditation time so that I am 100% ready for my clients, and I'm not dragging in there with yesterday's news or yesterday's baggage into today, or taking it into tomorrow or the next week.
Mm-hmm. Right. I have a few friends that have shared kind of their routines too. And like one gets up just earlier in the morning and will do her workout because she's like, if I can get up early and get my workout in, I get energized. I'm able to, you know, have more energy just for the rest of the day, where someone else might say, you know, at the end of the day, I want to like pop into a bubble bath with some candles or a glass of wine or a book, or, you know, just have that time. So I know some that are very good at it. And then there's some of us that just still think like there's just so much to do. And, you know, so sometimes it's hard. And I think we all know we should be taking care of ourselves, but sometimes it's still hard to put yourself as a priority.
Yeah. But then again, like I said, the least, if you don't prioritize yourself, there's less for you to give.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. So how would you explain happiness then too? What is happiness? Or do you even change, like, or do you have a different definition of joy versus happiness too? Because I've heard sometimes you could be joyful and still not happy. So I would love to kind of know your thoughts on that.
So me personally, I could be wrong again, I'm not a doctor, but for me, joy is more of an experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Happiness is something that you feel and can be constant. So again, having that self-love and having that time for yourself to do things that you love and enjoy gives you more joy than in turn gives you that happiness. Mm-hmm. So if we're doing everything that is joyous for everyone else, when do you get to fill up your happy plate or do something fun for yourself? That's again another point of why it's so important to know who you are. Know the things that make you happy. Those bubble baths, that book, that glass of wine, whatever that looks like, and do that for yourself so that you do have those points in life to be happy and joyful. But the more you take care of yourself, the more you have that self-love, the more you want to do more things for yourself, just like your children. That love you have for your child, you want to give them more. You want to be a better person for them because you love them so much. So that's where people need to start thinking about themselves the same way. Cherish yourself like a little inner child, just like you would do your children. That's how you should treat yourself. And that's where the joy and that happiness comes from. I mean, me just walking outside and smelling the roses. I know that sounds so cliche, but now that I'm in this different mind space, I get joy from that now. But before I would have been like, okay, great. You know, like that's not it, you know, but just because the way I look at life and my mindset is totally different. So the things that you wouldn't consider being joyous or happy times are.
So do you have a recommendation for somebody of like how much time they should set aside? Is it something like a certain amount of time every day, a certain amount of time every week? Like how often should they be putting something on their calendar for taking care of themselves? And, how much time maybe should they be dedicating to that?
So that's depends on the person. Okay. So some people are more happy when they're moving around doing stuff, I don't know, outdoorsies, hiking and stuff. But then someone, like you said, might get more joy from being in the house, covered up, reading a book and having a nice glass of tea, So I do help clients figure out a lot of it too is people don't even know. They don't even have a clue of who they are. So they don't know what they like. They don't know how much time I need or what I need to fill that happy bucket. Do you know what I'm saying? So a lot of times it has to do with just people figuring out who they are, what they like, and what makes them happy. And then just incorporating a little bit of that. I'm not saying take 6 hours of your day and indulge, I'm saying take the time you need to keep that happy bucket up.
Right. Well, and I think what you're talking about too, some people might be happy just, bundled up at home with a cup of tea, and someone might need that interaction with other people. I think that's where some of those personality types come in too. So I'm definitely more of like the introvert. I love to be able to do things that only require me to do them too, whether it's reading or crocheting, or haven't been able to do scrapbooking in a long time, but I like to take those memories and put them, down, even if I'm not that artistic, it was kind of fun. Where I have another friend that she's definitely like that outdoorsy person, or needs to be around a group of people, and she loves to do karaoke and those kind of things too. Right. So I think there might be concepts of what you're supposed to be doing to like fill your bucket, but we're all different, and taking into consideration our personality types, right, can decide how long, how much, how often that's required.
And also being mindful and aware. See what that looks like. Like you said, you're an introvert. So being around people might take away from your energy. So then you need to be aware, okay, I can do people for about 4 hours. And then I'm kind of like going into my energy reserves, So being more mindful of yourself, how things bother you or don't bother you, how they make you feel or don't make you feel. Those things matter too, because that's how you can find, you know what? I'm actually really good at crocheting. Like you said, that's your thing, but you're not that creative. You probably really are. You just haven't given yourself enough space to really dig deep of how far you could go with the crocheting.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, crochet I'm pretty good at. I think it was more like on the scrapbooking. Sometimes I think visually putting everything to make it look like so wonderful. Like some people are just so creative, and I'm like, I don't care. I just want to have, it looks nice, it may not be, the best, but it will capture the memories. Right. So I want to be able to get back to that one of these days too, when I can get some things out. But it's the best for you,
Candy. Who cares what everybody else looks like?
Right.
That works for you,
It's mainly to have the memories, right? And to be able to pass those down over time. So that's the thing, but yes. So turning this onto kind of the business side of things too, not just as focused individually, how would you say that this self-love and that, bringing confidence to us is going to impact our businesses?
So the more you love yourself, the more confident you are, the more you can trust your judgment, if you're creative, you can dig more deep in it because you have confidence. Like, I can do this. I am worthy of that. Same thing for business. If you feel good about who you are, you're confident, you show up at work confident. You show up as that employee, as a confident, I know what I bring to the table. I'm a value and how much value you bring. So when you show up and you know that value, you look different. You show up different. At those meetings, you have the confidence to speak up on things that you didn't want to talk about because you were afraid of, oh, they don't want to hear me, or I'm invisible, they don't see me. Actually, we do hear you and we do see you and we want to hear from you. So your ideas are good enough to be talked about or brought up. So it in turn makes you a better business owner, a business person, because you can actually trust your thoughts and then actually say something, and you don't know where those opportunities can really take you.
So I was just thinking while you were talking about that too, and having the business side, and you were talking kind of more on the employee side, but me as a business owner with quite a few employees too, I was thinking, is there a difference between kind of filling up yourself like personally and taking time out, at home or whatever, versus in the midst of your day and you're working, these long hours and you're interacting with the staff and clients and vendors and, all these things. Is there like a difference in terms of taking a break and replenishing yourself for business purposes, or does it not matter? Like if you're refreshing yourself at home, you can make it through the day. You know what I mean?
Again, everybody's different. You might need a refresher during the day because your day is heavier than mine or somebody else's, So what I would advise my clients to do is check in. Let's say it's 11 o'clock and you're feeling a little overwhelmed, but you can't pinpoint what the overwhelming is about. Start checking in with yourself. What's going on? What just happened that could have put me in this mood? And then you check yourself and see, okay, what happened here? Was that, I don't know, maybe you and an employee had a little bit of a discussion that rubbed you the wrong way, or you didn't like the way it was handled. That could have taken your energy down a little bit and put you in now a negative mood versus a positive. Check in with that. When you do that, then you're now being in charge of that emotion. Okay, so this is what bothered me. What am I going to do with it? Am I going to stay in this space, or am I going to go talk to the employee so that I can get a better sense of what happened? Or should I just let it go and let that go and keep going and not take it with me?
So what if there's not really a negative experience like that? Like, oh, we had a negative situation with the employee and I just have to kind of deal with it. But you're just working, as business owners, we have so many things to do. We wear like lots of hats, right? So we're doing all these different jobs. And so sometimes it may just feel like the day itself is just long or overwhelming or whatever. So I guess it's still okay to take time out then and say, I need a 10-minute break or 15-minute break, and not think that we are slacking, right, on that job.
So Candy, let's say you took a break. Your first mind would say, now you're being lazy or you're slacking.
I think sometimes what I just think personally is like, I have so many things on the list and my staff is always having to have situations where they might want to reach out and double check on something, or how is this? And I'm actually in the process of having an operations person who's going to be taking over some of that burden too. But by the time we have all the customer calls and prospect calls, and sometimes vendors are calling or people want to talk to me, want to sell me their products or services or something, and then all that interaction, I think sometimes it just feels like I want to get started early in my day. So I have a lot of things done before all of that interaction happens. And then at the end of the day, it just seems like, oh, I've worked such a long day and I haven't really like stopped, where I have to tell my employees, you're required by law, right, to take your break and your lunches and your whatever. As employers and business owners, sometimes we're not as good to ourselves, right? And we also don't want to be perceived as not necessarily doing the things that we should be doing, right? We need to be running the company or whatever. So I think that's where sometimes as business owners too, we have a hard time taking those breaks. And maybe not everyone has that situation, but sometimes I'm that way too, because I have so many things that need to be done and I want to get them accomplished,
Yeah, but then that's when that compassion and that kindness needs to come for yourself. You're an overachiever. You've already exceeded a normal person's day. Okay. So all those extra things that you're putting on your plate, those are just extra. Those are optional. So if they can wait, but like you said, you already made a good point. You're starting to make sense of what is too heavy on your load. And now you're having someone come in and take some of that burden off. So that's great, because there's that awareness that, you know what, this is overwhelming. It's too much. Now the business is growing that big. I need to get help in these areas. And be fine with the help. Let the help help,
Right.
But then don't be so mean to yourself where you're like, I can't take a break because I'm the business owner. People have to see me in a different way. Listen, who cares what everybody else thinks? Because I don't care if you work 24 hours a day, 365, people are going to have something to say, good or bad, regardless. So as long as you're good with it, that's all that should matter.
Right. Well, I've been trying to do the same thing, and other people may be learning just from my experiences, which I'm sharing too. So it will be a good example. But the other thing that I have an issue with is I've had some people that have been with me for a very long time. So they're so used to just reaching out to me directly or emailing me or, those kind of things. And I'm trying to now just say, you'll probably get a faster response by actually talking to my staff first, because there are so many things that are coming to me. It takes me longer to be able to respond. So if you contact my staff, but sometimes it's hard to get those that have been with you for a while, like newer people, if you're just like, this is your contact, like, no problem,
No problem.
you know?
Right.
So I think that's a challenge that I have too.
That's one of your things. You need to be okay with letting go. Send the email, set that boundary. This is your point of contact. This is probably your fastest way of getting an answer. So go through her. And I actually added her to the email so she knows exactly what you need from this point on, and let it go. And don't even think about it.
Right.
That's the part, is when you let it go, you want to follow up, make sure it got taken care of and done. And I get it. Listen, I am in the same seat as you, but I have came to a point where I have to surrender. I have to let some things go, or I won't be bigger than what I can be, because I can only be one person.
Right. Exactly.
You know, and that's taking up your creativity to be better and find different avenues and different ways of making income come in. You know, you're the business owner for a reason. Don't take away from that because you're so consumed with all of the stuff that you've already created and is working well.
Right. Also, I'm thankful for the team I have. They're amazing. So anyone that's listening, that's one of my clients too. Go ahead and call them. They'll take care of you. So
that's the thing, is you just need to tell the people, if they're under my wing, trust that I have good judgment, you're going to be in great hands.
That's a good point. Exactly.
That's
so
it.
I know, going on to the topic, we also had where we were talking about, loving yourself and things like that too. And I know we were focused a little bit on the business, but, how would you help someone understand how they could really truly love who they are? I mean, some people have come from circumstances where they may not feel, valuable or loved or all of that too. So for someone who may be struggling in that area, how can you help them understand how they could truly love who they are?
So first thing is, what I do with my clients is I call it the onion peel. First, we need to figure out where that stems from. Okay. And that's, we got to go in that closet that everybody likes to throw all the junk in and then just shut the door really quick for. We got to go in that closet, open that door, and let the stuff come out. So then now we know where these things are coming from. Because when we figure out the trigger points or where that programming came from, we can reprogram it to let you know that you are worthy, you are good enough. Because the only reason why people think those things, that they're not pretty enough, they're not cute enough, they're not skinny enough, they're not smart enough, those comes from life. A lot of times, unfortunately, it's our childhood. And little things that our parents did or didn't do has affected the way we see ourselves. And if we don't change that or see exactly where it came from to try and fix it, it's just going to show up in our adulthood life.
Right. Well, and I think it really could come from all different places. I mean, I'm very thankful. I have a wonderful family. My parents were, really good to me, and, my brother and everything too. But I know I've had, friends that have had issues with, people at school, or we've heard about bullying, so many people who have been bullied, or maybe situations with teachers. I mean, there's so many different things that can impact us, and you may not even remember what that situation really is. And so it might be hard to dig down into that onion to figure out what is that thing, right?
No, that's true. And a lot of times people don't even realize that it's something until we start digging into that subconscious and start letting some of those emotions that have been just packed in there and not really taken care of or, properly handled. So when I say the onion peel, it comes back from the layers of life, experience, school, people, just things, work, managers saying things that you didn't like, all of those kind of things just are, on top of each other. So we got to get down to the beginning, work it out, and reprogram the way you think about yourself.
Yeah, it's so important because we want everyone to know that they're worthy and they're loved, right? So
yeah.
And it's the same thing in personal life, or you could see something in business, even perhaps that you might even see someone that in a management position like me, maybe might even see someone that has some issues, and maybe you could feed into them, right? To help them feel better about themselves too. I think that's where we all could be really looking for those opportunities as well.
Yeah.
So what bearing then does this self-love have on a person in all different areas of their life, whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally? Touch on that a bit.
I'm sorry, you asked, what is it?
what does the bearing of that self-love have on someone, like in all these different aspects of our life, right? Where we can have an impact mentally or physically or emotionally, or, like there's all different parts of our life that could be affected. So maybe touch on that self-love in those different areas.
Yeah, so that's the thing. That's why I'm so passionate about the self-love. Self-confidence comes with it. So self-confidence is not my main goal. It's just about finding that self-love. Because like you said, it can affect all aspects of your life. A lot of times a psychologist will say, well, what's the difference between you and us? Well, not a lot. Clearly, I'm not diagnosing. I don't work off of a scaling system, and I don't prescribe medication. But a lot of times this has to do with people having lack of love for themselves. And that starts from not even knowing who they are. How do you love something that you don't even know who they are, what they like, what their favorite color is? I have a client right now that doesn't even know what hobbies she would like, and she's older. And that's because she just lived her life through what everybody else said she should do, or how she should look, or how she should show up, And how do you love? That would be the parents loving that person that they created, not the person that you created loving that, because that's not the genuine person that's inside of that, So like I said to her, is we need to take all of those out. I want you to basically look at this as a blank canvas, and you start drawing what it looks like to be loose, not what I want you to look like or what you look like to me, not what your parents, what you like. And after doing some work, she started to figure out certain things, hobbies, colors, and starting to really cherish and love that, because she's like, these are my interests. I love this. I'm passionate about it. I want to go and get 15 different ones of them, So, and it shows up like that because it's coming from within, not outside trying to fit in the inside. Does that make sense? When you come from inside, fitting into outside, it's an easier fit because you know where you can go. But if you're letting the outside influence you, you're like, does that fit here? I don't know if that works for me.
Right. So while you were talking about that too, I was just wondering, kind of back to the business side of things too, like maybe there's an employee who's doing a job that they did a job, maybe because they thought they had to do that job, or that was the only job they thought they could get. Do you coach people who are maybe in that area where they're like, well, I don't know what I would enjoy doing, and help them figure that out, so they're not in that where they don't want to get up in the morning to go to work?
That is my main thing, is that, because once you find your passion and you love what you do, you're going to be excited to wake up. That is that is the worst thing in life, is dreading Monday mornings.
Right.
Because Monday mornings are always going to come. So how do we get in a space where we are like, yes, it's Monday. I am in a space where I'm like, yes, who's on my list? I can't wait, because I found my passion. And if I can do it, so can everyone else. It just takes that commitment and dedication.
Yeah, because I find that sad. I don't think about that like, oh gosh, I gotta, go to work again, or, oh, I'm so glad it's Friday, because I just can't stand my job. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing what I do as a business owner if I didn't enjoy what I do. But I have heard people saying that, or posting, that like, oh God, I have to wake up tomorrow and go to work, and I always think that's so sad. And to go through life not enjoying what you're doing must be really difficult.
Yeah. And there's people like, thankfully you had a good, growing up, but people are doctors or attorneys because their family said that that's what they're going to do. And then they hate it. You spent all this money, all of these schooling years doing something that you don't have passion to do. So you're not going to be a good attorney or a good doctor, because that's not what you want to do. So you're not even giving back to society the way you should be, because you don't like it. And that's why we have awful doctors that aren't really helping people be better or get healthier, because they don't even want to be there.
Right. So I would love for you, just as you're talking about that too, I thought again of the parents who maybe are saying like, oh, you shouldn't really go into music because you're not going to be successful. Go and become that doctor, because then, that will pay for, to have this great life or retirement or whatever. So then what would you tell the parents who have children? Yes, they want their children to be secure. They want them to have a great future. Yet, the child wants to be doing something a little bit different. Like, how would you encourage them to just like let go and let them, find what it is they want to do and not feel that they're letting their child down?
Well, I would ask, how much financial intelligence is there for the parents, and what did you teach your children? Because it's not taught in school. So actually the day-to-day jobs that people are, so you get this job, 401k pensions are secure. That's not even reality these days.
Right.
Because I've seen families that spent their whole lives, had millions of dollars in pension, and that company went down and all of that money is gone.
Right.
So for me, the way I'm going to teach my son is financial intelligence. This is going to be your income, but we need to figure out other ways to build that asset, Colin, so that you can be making money. So that if your job isn't paying $600,000 a year, you'll have other ways to make it so that you survive and you'll be safe throughout your world while you're doing something that you love that doesn't make $1 million a year.
Yes, I so agree on that financial education too. I mean, obviously I'm in the arena of that too, but I've seen where there's some people who maybe don't make a lot, but they are still able to be out of debt. And then some people that make a lot more and they're just living a lifestyle that they're not really managing things well and are actually kind of worse off in the long run than someone who's just more cautious. So I definitely agree with you on that financial education. So, but I know this has been interesting. We're talking again just about having that self-love and how it can impact us personally and in business. I know we're running out of time, so I want to ask if you have an offer that you'd like to share with the listeners.
Absolutely. Anybody that's listening and that wants to be a better version of themselves, please reach out. I have a free 30-minute session for anyone that's available and willing. The assessment usually will turn into actual sessions, but you can even get something out of that 30 minutes that will help you start on your process or your journey.
And did you normally work with mostly like personal side, or is someone who's in business who's struggling with some of these issues, that's a good fit for you as well?
I have people from every aspect. And the thing is, sometimes people come to me with something else and see that it needs to be a whole nother program. So I say, reach out. Let's see if we're a good fit, because I'm not a good fit for everybody, but I might be for you. If that works, we move on and we work together. If not, I have other people I can, collaborate you with, or, let you know that maybe they will work for you.
Perfect. So what are all the ways that people can find you and reach out to you?
So the best way to find me would be my website. It has my podcast on there. It has my Instagram, any information you need from me. Also, that offer is on there, and that is all the w's.livingandlovinglife.us.
Okay, perfect. So, well, thank you, Erica, for being a guest on my show and, talking about this topic. Again, a lot of people probably might find it surprising that we're talking about this when my, show is usually more business, but personal impacts business. So I thought it was important to have that conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Sure. And I also want to thank the listeners for tuning in today. I hope you found this topic interesting and it answered some of your questions about self-love and confidence in business. If you have any additional questions or comments, be sure to reach out to Erica at any of the links that she shared, or send us a message at media@abandp.com. And would you please share our show information with those you know? I'd greatly appreciate your support. I hope you can join us for next week's topic, how to fire your difficult customers and attract ideal clients. And remember, you can connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And my website is abandp.com. And remember, you can also find the podcast posted on multiple favorite podcast platforms, including Google, TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Until next time, have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help for You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next Tuesday. Have a terrific week.